Welcome back to another episode of Travis's Musings. I know that it has been a little while since we've talked, and I wanted to apologize for that. I've been exceptionally busy. I had a really long hunting season, and that took up a lot of my spare time, and so I've been scrambling to keep up with my actual job and everything in between. But we're back here for the 2021 year-end review and a look ahead to 2022. And I have to say that this is going to be a fun one because we all know who the 2021 Beer Bet Champion is. And I'm really looking forward to getting all of my beers mailed to me and drinking them all in one setting. So that being said, again, we'll start off with the normal disclaimer that neither myself, nor Matt, nor Jaron, nor any of the other admins associated with TSP Calc or the TSP Calc seasonal Facebook group are financial advisors, fiduciaries, etc. We're just regular government employees just like you who are trying to maximize our TSP gains. And so take what we say with a grain of salt. And like I said, we're here for you guys, and we're you know, when we struggle, you struggle. When you struggle, we struggle. And so we're all just doing the best we can. So let's dive in. So right here, I have all of the 2021 beer bets up. And you can see that my strategy here crushed the field. Jaron, you see that here? Almost double you. I want to make sure Jaron notices that there. And I made a couple comments that I did do a couple of swing trades throughout the year. And I'm making it my 2022 New Year's resolution not to do that because I did not end up beating myself. As of today, December 30th, it looks like I'm going to finish at approximately 29% year to date in my actual personal TSP account. And so I finished about, looks like 3.5%, 3.7%. Actually, this will be another, this doesn't include today's. So this will be 33%. So I finished about 4% below where I would have been. And that's a pretty big number. My TSP account balance is continuing to grow, and 4% is a substantial amount of money. And so I'm hoping that next year that I can maintain discipline. Anthony has challenged me not to get handsy with my own TSP account. So we'll see how well I can manage that. And so anyways, so here was the 2021 results. I finished at 33% approximately after today. We're going to add about 0.3% for the S Fund. Larry, about 18.5%. Ryan, 16.5%. Dina at 9.87%. Matt at 21.4. Also noticed that Matt was also in an all equity strategy, but that he spent significantly less time, I believe, in the C Fund than I did. Actually, it was pretty close. We'll have to take a look at see what his big swings were. I think it was probably I Fund related though. Jaron finished at, I was talking about Larry's here. Jaron's was 17. Larry's was 18. And so Jaron actually was, he was way down in all the pack. I don't know why anybody follows Jaron anymore, but just kidding, Jaron. And then Anthony finished at 16.3. So let's go ahead and take a look at where those major differences were between Matt and myself. We'll come down here to the trading day comparison tool, which is another feature associated with your TSP Calc Premium membership. So it looks like Matt spent January, looks like in the C Fund here, as opposed to the S. And this was the big one right here. So in March, I spent almost the entirety of March in the I Fund. And I did actually, I didn't swing out on here. And I made up significant gains here. And this is probably where the major difference between Matt and myself lived on our year-end results. And so for the rest of the year, like I said, I did deviate here at the end in order to get ready for my 2022 strategy. I went to the I Fund and then I swapped over to the S Fund as of yesterday so that I would be ready so I don't mess up my IFTs going into the new year. So now let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and take a look at my 2022 strategy and compare it to my 2021 and the CSNI. And again, I want to apologize. I have been fighting a cold, and so I'm feeling much better today, but my voice is a little raspy, and so I want to apologize for that as well. So again, if you don't know, my 2022 strategy is 158283, and man, it is beautiful. I'm not sure who created this strategy, but it's really good. It averages about 26% on its mean, which is over double the C and the S fund over the last 15 years here, or 17 years of data that we have, and it beats my strategy by almost 10% on average mean. It's pretty impressive. So let's go ahead and take a look and see where its major differentiation is. So again, it's 100% all equity stock, which we'll take a moment here, and I'll just make another plug for this, is that I've been doing seasonal investing since 2018 or 2018, and I've over the last 2 years, I've really come around to the fact that it's a lot of fun being in the G fund when the market, has a big downturn. It's less fun being in G fund when the market makes a little run up, even if you end up being on the wrong side of that. And so I've kind of returned to my roots, which is to beat, buy, and hold. That's the whole reason I started investing seasonally, which is to beat what everybody else was doing and try to actively manage my 401k to maximize my future gains. And I think that the best way to do that is to run an all equity strategy, and where you're looking at being in the strongest equities fund during their seasonally strong times of the year. And historically, they've done very well against the benchmark funds. And my new strategy this year, I believe it only lost, right here in 2006 is the only time it lost to any of the benchmarks. It lost to the I fund in 2006, and it has beaten the CSNI every single year besides that one anomaly since then. And it's a pretty impressive little streak. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the differences are between my strategy in 21 and this year. So you can see that it's got a little more I fund. So when you swap over here, if you didn't know this, you can take a look at what the time in each of these stocks is. And so it's got about 4% more in the I fund, and it takes that, it looks like, from the S, and it adds, it moves off the S, bumps a little C, and bumps some I. And we'll scroll down to the trading day comparison tool here, which is pretty neat. And so you can see, a couple days I fund here, a couple days on the front end here. And then interestingly enough, in March, where last year I did so well through here, it actually utilized the C fund for the first half. And then this is historically the best time to be out of the C and the S into the I fund. I think a lot of other strategies tend to roll to F or G at that time. This has been sitting at I. Again, here another little jump in I fund, and you can see here what the strategy utilizes. Is it kind of utilizes I fund like a exit area, where when U.S. equities may be historically struggling, maybe international equities aren't doing as bad, and generally the I fund will track a little bit in the similar direction. So you can kind of see those again. Just some comparisons here on how these break up a little bit. And really, you can see here, this is one of the problems that people have with all equity strategies, is you can take years like 2011 or even 2018 where it went negative. But the whole point, again, is that it didn't go as negative as the other benchmark funds. And so if you're somebody who wants to minimize their risk when you're utilizing a seasonal investing strategy, an all equity strategy really kind of does that, because you're not missing any of the gains. You just have to be disciplined enough to understand that you're going to have rough years like this. But as long as they're not as rough as the benchmark funds, you're doing better than you would have been doing in buy and hold, which is where you get your, quote unquote, 7% average return a year or 8% average year historically. And you can really increase your averages, looking forward. That's kind of the whole goal. And so that's kind of what I've got going on here. And let's go ahead and bounce on over to the 2022 beer bet with all of us here. And you can see Matt has a pretty cool strategy here. Did pretty good, again, an all equity strategy. The reason his mean is significantly lower is that Matt has went ahead and axed the I completely from his investing. He's staying with all American equities. Kind of taking a quick glance across the bottom of the board here. Jaron, Larry, and Ryan are running at about 60 to 65%. And Dina is utilizing a strategy with significantly more exposure to equity benchmarks with only using 20% G, whereas somebody like Ryan is using 35%, or Larry's using 35%, and Jaron is using up to 41. So Dina is dipping her toes closer and closer to an all equity strat while still utilizing some time out of the market. And we can go ahead and take a look at their equities down here. And again, you can kind of see kind of what I was talking about before, where we switched to the I fund here in February. All these other strategies are spending some time in the G fund. Some I fund here, G fund here. And you can kind of see that correlation there between the I fund and the G fund for a lot of the other strats. And again, the I fund is going to track historically a little bit better if, for example, the C fund and the S fund have a run up that week instead of historically what they've had as a negative. It should track with that. And so I think that's why you see some of the larger swings. Obviously, with an all equity strategy, you're going to have a standard deviation for me of 20, but that doesn't matter as much. Standard deviation when you're in an all equity strategy is going to be high versus one of these strategies that utilize high G or high F. So that's kind of what we've got looking forward for 2022. And then the one last thing I wanted to kind of talk about here is I want to take a look at the S&P 500 over the last year. Excuse me. And I wanted to kind of take a look at my favorite drawing tool here is the Fibonacci retracements, because I think it's so interesting. And kind of how it kind of performed over the course of the year and what we've kind of got looking forward to maybe headed forward. So you can see it was a pretty steep gain. I mean, the S&P 500 is almost at 30% on the year. And it topped out here at a high of 479. Again, this is the SPY or the spider. And so it's off by a factor of 10. So this would be like 4,790, which would be the equivalent to the S&P 500 numbers. So if you're looking for why those comparison numbers are so different, that's why. And so, Anthony and I have been, or Anthony has made some comments that, maybe 5,000 is going to happen this year. It's kind of magnetically pulling up that way. And you can see here that the S&P 500 kind of tested some barriers. It kind of broke through recently, and it kind of bounced up against this fib number up here. And we're going to kind of see what it's going to do. If it's going to retrace back down to in the 4,500 range, or if it's going to go ahead and springboard up towards 5,000. So it'll be kind of interesting to watch, especially through January, which in recent years has been a pretty positive run for equities. And it'll be kind of interesting to watch. So again, I kind of close out some thoughts here is that 2021 financially for me was, was an excellent year. It was a lot of fun running an all equity strat the best I could. And despite my inability to stay 100% on strategy, I'm going to make it a real effort in 2022 to do so because I'm tired of losing to myself, really, is what it all boils down to. And if you're not a member of TSP Calc, head on over and, you can utilize the calculator and you can get the trading days off there. But the calendars, the trading day comparison tool, the text alert reminders are all really important and useful items. And, the current price on TSP Calc is $19.99 a year. It's really not that much of an investment for you to utilize those things and help support TSP Calc and its continued growth. So I wanted to thank all the members that are currently on board and everybody on the Facebook group. You guys have all been great this year, and we all the admins really appreciate all the discussion and all the help that people are been giving for new members and so forth. So I hope you guys all have a happy new year, and we'll see you on the other side in 2022.